All right, so we've got this whole stack of articles all about the Oscars this year. And, well, looks like it was a pretty wild night, huh? Some crazy surprises, definitely some things that had people scratching their heads.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like everyone's been talking about this year's ceremony. A lot of unexpected stuff went down.
Yeah, for sure. Like Anora, like cleaning up winning 5 awards. I mean, after how it kind of did earlier this award season, did anybody actually see that sweep coming?
Well, it was a huge turnaround for sure. You have to give it to Sean Baker for pulling off something like that. I mean, 4 Oscars in one night. Tying with Walt Disney, it's pretty incredible. I think it just goes to show you the power of really having a unique vision.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he did it his own way, right? Like that classic indie style of his. Shooting on iPhones, actually filming in restaurants. You know, kind of makes you wonder if maybe you don't need these massive budgets to really make a film that has a big impact.
Yeah, it does make you think. Like, could this be the start of something? Maybe more filmmakers will start trying those kinds of guerrilla tactics.
It's definitely possible. I mean, Baker's success could inspire people to experiment, to really see how far they can push the limits creatively.
And then there's Mikey Madison, Best Actress for Anora. What a surprise. She was up against some really big names.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really says a lot about the power of her performance, you know?
Yeah.
But maybe it also says something about the industry, right? Like maybe there's a hunger for new faces, for stories that you just don't see coming.
Yeah, that could be. Now, on the other side of that, you've got Emilia Perez, 13 nominations going in, but it only walked away with 2 awards. Best Supporting Actress for Zoe Saldana, and then Best Original Song for El Mal. Why do you think that is? I mean, was it just because it was kind of a villain this year?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? You can't deny Emilia Perez got everyone talking, but it definitely had some strong opinions around it, too.
Right.
So maybe the Academy was a little hesitant to, you know, totally embrace a film that was, yeah, technically brilliant, but maybe a little too controversial for some.
And then you've got to wonder about all that stuff with Carla Sofia Gascon on social media, right?
Yeah.
Like, did those resurfaced posts end up overshadowing the film itself?
It's tough to say for sure, but it definitely adds another layer to it all, doesn't it? Like, how much should an artist's personal life be part of how we judge their work? Especially when it involves stuff that happened a long time ago.
It's a tricky situation. Definitely no easy answers there. Okay, but one thing that's for sure, Timothée Chalamet was basically America's sweetheart that night, even without the Best Actor win.
Oh, yeah. He really did bring something different to this whole awards season, didn't he? That kind of fun, almost whimsical way he ran his campaign. It was a breath of fresh air. What do you think? Could this make other actors rethink those super serious campaigns?
I think you might be right about that. The thing about Chalamet is he just felt real, you know? And I think audiences pick up on that. Like, remember when Adam Sandler just, like, crashed Conan O'Brien's monologue? In shorts, no less, just to give Chalamet a hug. That wouldn't have worked with just anybody.
Haha, yeah, exactly. You're right. It shows that Chalamet can connect with people even in the most ridiculous situations. Which, speaking of Conan, you know, he did a pretty good job for his first time hosting the Oscars, I'd say.
Oh, yeah, he was great. Like, those jokes about Gascon's publicist and Drake, those were spot on.
Oh, he was hilarious.
He was really funny. But it wasn't all just jokes, right? Like, he felt like he got the balance right, you know, celebrating the films, but also not afraid to poke a little fun at the whole industry. Do you think maybe his style, like, shows that the Oscars are trying to maybe not take themselves quite as seriously anymore?
Yeah, I think it's possible. You know, award shows get a lot of flack for being kind of out of touch with, you know, the people they're supposed to be entertaining. So maybe Conan being so lighthearted, maybe it's a response to that.
Oh, and speaking of not taking things too seriously, who can forget that giant sandworm from Dune, Part 2, crashing the stage? Like, multiple times.
It was great. It was such a funny, like, kind of crazy thing to throw into the ceremony. But it wasn't just for laughs, right? I think it also kind of shows how cool practical effects still are.
Yeah.
Like, we're in this world where it's all CGI all the time. But that sandworm, it was a good reminder that sometimes the coolest effects are things you can actually, like, touch.
It definitely made an impression. And, you know, there was all this talk about how this year's Oscars felt like almost like a love letter to cinema, especially after those awful wildfires in LA.
Oh.
What do you think? Did it feel that way to you?
Oh, yeah. I definitely you could feel that sense of, like, people coming together, being thankful for film. Like, it was more than just surviving. It was celebrating the art itself.
Right.
Winning those awards for films like Anora, The Brutalist, and No Other Land, all those indie films, and then focusing on craft awards, that's huge. And I don't know if you remember, but that opening montage, all those films set in Los Angeles, it was like a tribute to the city's whole history with film.
Oh, yeah, I got chills. And speaking of celebrating cinema, there seem to be maybe some subtle jabs at those streaming giants. Like Sean Baker straight up advocating for movie theaters in his acceptance speech.
Yeah, he hasn't exactly been quiet about, not being a fan of streaming. He says that they basically put convenience ahead of actually, having that experience of going to a theater and watching a film with other people. And, it's a good point. It's an interesting debate. Do you think maybe the Academy is on his side, or was that just him speaking his mind?
Hard to tell, but it's definitely interesting timing, right? Especially with that James Bond tribute. Margaret Qualley, Lisa, Doja Cat, the whole thing was a spectacle. Some people thought it was a direct message to Amazon MGM.
Maybe. The Oscars have always been a place where, the industry can kind of comment on itself. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's more subtle. So that Bond tribute, it could be seen as a way of saying, hey, remember the studios, remember the way things used to be, pushing back against all the power streaming has now.
And then, I don't know if you felt the same way, but Morgan Freeman's tribute to Gene Hackman during the In Memoriam, it was so moving.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Especially that quote he had about how Hackman just wanted to be remembered for good work, not just awards. Really hit home.
Yeah, it shows a kind of humility, He was dedicated to the work itself. It wasn't about the fame or the trophies. And I think that's something everyone in that room, everyone watching could relate to. Real art, it's about being good at what you do, not just getting recognized for it.
This year's Oscars, it really felt like they were wrestling with some big questions about, the whole film industry. What do you think was the biggest moment in that whole conversation?
I'd say Sean Baker's speech, the one where he talked about saving movie theaters. I think that was really important. It wasn't just about keeping theaters around. It was about remembering that going to the movies is a shared experience, It makes it more than just watching something. It turns it into something bigger.
Yeah, definitely felt like he was saying, hey, we need to do something, right? Don't take going to the movies for granted. Do you think people listening, watching at home, do you think they felt that too?
I mean, it's hard to say what the reaction was right away, but I think he started a conversation, and that conversation is happening outside of Hollywood too, It's what's the future of film? Well, it's not just up to filmmakers and studios, it's up to the people watching too. How we choose to watch films, that's gonna decide where things go.
So, in a way, it was like the Oscars this year weren't just about celebrating the movies. They were kind of like an invitation to be part of this bigger discussion about what's next for film. And I think that's what makes this whole deep dive so interesting, right?
Yeah.
We're not just talking about who won and who lost. We're looking at what's going on behind the scenes, all the stuff that's shaping the world of movies.
Exactly. And we've only just scratched the surface here. There are so many articles out there, interviews, reviews, all talking about this and looking at it from different angles.
So to everyone listening, keep digging. Right, go deeper into these articles, find some new voices, and most importantly, keep watching films. I mean, the best way to be part of this conversation is to experience the art for yourself.
Yeah, and don't forget, there isn't one right way to see a film. Feel what you feel, talk about it with other people, and keep the love of movies alive.
Well said. And that about wraps up our deep dive into the 2025 Oscars. Definitely a wild ride, full of surprises, but also some really cool moments.
It was, and like we said, we've only just begun. There's so much more to explore, so many little details to uncover.
But we'll let you, the listener, take it from here. Take what we talked about today and go on your own adventure into the world of film. Who knows? Maybe you'll find some hidden gems.
Absolutely. Happy watching, everyone, and until next time, we hope you find stories that move you, inspire you, and leave you wanting more.